Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
All right, and welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. All right, so I didn't think this was actually going to be happening, but I guess the whole seriousness amongst the Raiders possibly trading Khalil Mack, that's a real thing. We'll talk about that for this first segment. Second segment, we're going to be talking about the Vikings. I got some thoughts on them. I think they might be possibly, like I said, a bit overrated. We'll look at them, and I'll tell you why. I'm not necessarily saying they're a bad team or anything like that. I still think they're top 5 team in the NFL. We'll talk about the Vikings in the next segment. Third segment, we're going to talk about the Patriots wide receiver problems. They cut Kenny Britt. It's not good when you're trimming receivers off of a receiver problem. Kenny Britt's got to be out the league too. We all knew the Patriots had receiver problems and they're cutting you. That's all she wrote there. And then for the fourth segment, we'll talk about anything else going on in the world of football. So, I'm not really sure what the holdup is here with the Raiders. I don't get why they haven't paid Khalil Mack. There's been rumors saying that they're a bit short on money here. So I know they are dealing with the whole lease at the Coliseum and trying to head out to Vegas. But I don't get how you get rid of a guy like Mack, how you trade him. That makes no sense to me. Honestly. Why wouldn't you... this is a player who adds wins to your team. Raiders lose Khalil Mack, that defense gets instantly worse. And much worse. I feel like they've been going backwards ever since they announced they were moving to Vegas. And maybe they're cursed right now. Maybe some Oakland person put a curse on them. Possibility. Babe Ruth put a curse on the Red Sox. Was it Billy Goat or whatever put a curse on the Cubs? Stuff happens in sports, but it seems that the Jets, it was reported by Manish Mehta, I believe of the New York Daily News, reported that the Jets inquired about Khalil Mack to the Raiders. And, if teams are inquiring, that means the guy is definitely available. Just at the right price. So, we'll see what ends up happening. I don't think that the Raiders should trade Khalil Mack. I think that they should pay the guy. I get that he wants Von Miller type money, but he deserves Von Miller type money. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league. And it makes sense for the Jets to inquire about Khalil Mack because they do need edge help. They've also talked to the Jaguars about a possibility of trading for Dante Fowler. Dante Fowler hasn't necessarily done too much over his career. His rookie season, he blew out his knee. Since then, he's been more of a backup type guy, and there's no real room for him on that D-line to start. So, the Jets are looking right now, and the Jets are trying to sharpen up that defense that is already looking pretty good. Jets could surprise some people this season. Dare I say it. Depends what quarterback they got up there, though. We've talked enough about it, but I think the Jets are going to end up trading Teddy Bridgewater, but I have no clue where the guy ends up. I saw that Denver's not really interested in him. Denver's not interested in him. Where does he go? Honestly. The NFC East, they all have their quarterbacks. NFC North has their quarterbacks. NFC South has theirs. Yeah, I was maybe kind of come up with the idea of maybe the Buccaneers trade for him since they're not too sure about Jameis, but I don't see that happening. NFC West, they got their quarterbacks. So does the AFC East. Actually, Miami's been a team that's kind of came up as far as the rumors of acquiring Teddy Bridgewater. Obviously, if Miami's thinking about acquiring Teddy Bridgewater, they're not too sure about Ryan Tannehill. That makes sense. I mean, the guy's is coming into his, 6th, 7th season and still don't even know if he's the franchise quarterback. It's a possibility there. But Jets trading in the division. Not sure how that works out. I'd say the AFC North, they have their quarterbacks. Same with the AFC South. Jacksonville's not an option. AFC West, they got their guys too. So there's not really too much out there for Teddy Bridgewater. Looking at it, I mean, like I said with the Raiders are a team who, you're not sure what they're going to do this season. And I mean, if they do end up trading Khalil Mack, then I'd say wrap it up. It's a player you can't trade away. It's a guy that needs to be a Raider forever. I mean, you're looking at a team, you got Carr at quarterback, nice. You got Marshawn Lynch and Doug Martin there. Chris Warren competing for that third running back spot. I mean, I'm sure Chris Warren's going to make the team. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't. Dude's been tearing it up in the preseason. You got Cooper, Bryant, Jordy Nelson, Ryan Switzer, Seth Roberts, Jared Cook. They got a good offense. It's just the defense is what scares me. And if they had the worst defense in the league last season. That's not up for debate. That's a fact. They had one of the worst defenses in the league last season. And I mean, you get rid of a guy like Khalil Mack, that worst defense is going to get even more terrible. I mean, the D-line doesn't necessarily look so great. You got Arden Key there. I'm curious to see how he does. They did draft Maurice Torres. They did get a couple of big-time players in the draft. I'll give them that. Linebackers could be better. And you look at the secondary. Secondary was getting burnt like toast last season. I remember there was one game where I think they were playing the Ravens. I picked up Mike Wallace for that game. I think in that game he had a couple catches, near 100 yards, and a touchdown. But I guess Garyon Connolly's been looking good so far in the preseason. Guy they drafted out of Ohio State coming into his second year. So, I mean, they need all the help they can get. And I'm curious to see if it could possibly be John Gruden's contract that is kind of holding up Khalil Mack getting a deal done. I'm sure it might not be, but it is a question that you can't ask. I mean, Gruden did sign a 10-year, $100 million deal. At least that's what we were told. So, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. I mean, if the Raiders do end up trading Khalil Mack, I'll be shocked. And I'm not so sure that he ends up with the Jets. I'm sure the Jets would probably end up with Dante Fowler. Because, I mean, I feel like a deal for Khalil Mack, you got to give up a whole lot for that. I'm curious to see what the Raiders could get for a guy like Khalil Mack. I mean, everyone knows that you're trading him probably because you can't pay him. I'm sure Khalil Mack is at least worth a second rounder. Maybe whatever. I think you could give up a first rounder for Khalil Mack. Because I think if you're trading for Khalil Mack, then you kind of have a long-term deal in place. Kind of like what the Redskins did for Alex Smith. Traded for Alex Smith, but already had a deal in place there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but like I said, it just seems like the Raiders are getting back to being the old Raiders. Not the Raiders with John Gruden, but the Raiders after they lost that Super Bowl in 2002. When the Raiders lost that Super Bowl after that, I mean, they were just a complete dumpster fire. Terrible move after terrible move. Al Davis was only drafting guys who could run fast. I mean, it was terrible. Quarterbacks were awful. You gave Jamarcus Russell a whole bunch of money. I saw a story that at Marcus Russell's little rookie talent show, how they do it over there. Instead of doing anything, he just threw money up at his players and stuff like that. Must have been nice. Marcus Russell made all kinds of money being a terrible quarterback. Yeah, like I said, this Raiders team, I don't feel like they're moving in the right direction. I feel like they're moving backwards here, and that makes sense. I mean, John Gruden wants to play 1998 style football. It's not good when you try to move backwards. You're always trying to move forwards there, but we'll see what ends up happening. Raiders are a bit of a wild card team here. Not meaning that I'm saying they're going to make the wild card, but you have no clue what they're going to do. And I mean, looking at their schedule this season, they got the Rams, Week 1 in Oakland, Monday Night Football. Denver, Week 2, in Miami, Week 3. Let's pick their games this season. So I'll give them a loss against Denver. It's 0-1. Or against Los Angeles, that's 0-1. I'll say they lose to Denver at home, lose to Miami, or lose to Denver on the road, lose to Miami on the road. So that's 0-3. I'll give them a win against Cleveland. That's 1-3, 1-4 because they're playing it in Los Angeles against the Chargers Week 5. So that's what, 1-4 I said. I'll go. Did I pick Seattle to beat them? I'll go 2-5 or 2-4 after Week 6. 3-4 after Week 8. They're in San Francisco. I'll go 3-5 there. Then I'll go 4-5 against LA, the Chargers. 4-6 against Arizona. 4-7 against Baltimore. I'll go 5-7 against Kansas City. 6-7 against Pittsburgh because they always play Pittsburgh well. 7-7 against Cincinnati. 8-7 against Denver. I'll go 8-8. I'd say the Raiders are going to be 8-8 team this year. I think that's pretty fair. That's about the middle. You're not great, or you're not good, but you're not bad. That's kind of the feeling I've had with the Raiders this season. So, see what ends up happening. But if they trade Khalil Mack, I mean, that's going to be a problem. So, next up, we're going to be talking about the Vikings. So, stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. We spent that first segment talking about the Raiders. Now we move on, and we're going to talk about the Vikings. So, the Vikings are, I'd say, a very good team right now. I mean, as we should. But I kind of got some doubts. And my doubts come from, the playoffs last year. You look at it, let's look at their 2017 season, and we'll talk through this. Because I don't necessarily think that, I don't think they're a bad team or anything. I still think they're a top 5 team, but I don't know. It's just something weird about the Vikings that I don't trust. So you look at it, looking at their regular season schedule, it wasn't relatively something that was difficult to get through. You played Green Bay without Rodgers. Chicago was terrible last season. They beat a bad Tampa Bay team. They beat a bad Baltimore team. They beat a bad Cleveland team. Beat a bad Washington team. And like I said, it wasn't necessarily an easy schedule, but they did have some cakewalk games. And you look at them in the playoffs, if not for that play at the end, which was a fluke, let's be real here, they don't go to the NFC Championship game. And let's say, now they did make it to the NFC Championship game. They got blown out 38-7. People say, oh, it was because of Case Keenum. Case Keenum wasn't the reason why they lost those games. Defense gave up 38 points. Offense couldn't score, yeah, but I mean, I'm just looking at the Vikings, and last season, I think they had it a bit easy. And again, I still do think this is a good team, but it's just, I don't trust them yet. I like Kirk Cousins. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's near top 10. He's like I say, he's that 10, 11, 12 range. But how good is this team actually? You got Dalvin Cook coming back. I'm excited for that. Everyone's saying he's looking great in practice, but we haven't seen him play. And as much as they want him to be Adrian Peterson coming off of his ACL injury, that's not a given. So, I mean, there are questions surrounding this team. Like, they are the favorites to win the NFC North and all that. And I think when I say maybe they're a bit overrated, I think the point I'm trying to make here is that, are we sure that they're on an Eagles, Rams, or Saints level? I mean, they should have lost to the Saints last year. They didn't. And they got blown out by the Eagles. And yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make. I'm not sure that they're on those teams' level. I mean, they could be, but that defense really scared me in that last game against Philly. But they did improve, signing George Iocca over from Cincinnati. He signed him for the vet minimum there. So, I mean, looking at their schedule for this year, it is a bit tougher, I think, compared to last year. You look at it, you got to play San Francisco week 1. That's in Minnesota. That should be a win there. Let's pick their schedule, actually. I got them winning week 1. They play in Green Bay week 2. That's 1-1. 2-1 since they're playing Buffalo week 3. Then I'd say they go 2-3 the next 2 games because they're playing in LA against the Rams and in Philly. So that's 2-3. 3-3 against Arizona. 4-3 against New York. 4-4 against New Orleans. 5-4 against Detroit. I'll go I'm at 6-4 right now. Actually, I got them at, 5-4 I think it is? Yeah, 5-4. And they play in Chicago week 11. I'll go 5-5. 6-5 against Green Bay. 6-6 against New England. 7-6 against Seattle. 8-6 against Miami. I got them going about 10-6, 9-7, I'd say. And again, the goal of this team is to win a Super Bowl. Anything less than that is a problem. You gave Kirk Cousins $84 million of your dollars to go out and win you the big game. But like I said, I'm not sure that they're really on that level of an Eagles or Saints team, or even the Rams, like I said. I mean, even last year we saw people were questioning them at that point. Not really sure that they would do much in the playoffs or anything like that. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Looking at their division, it's all improved all around. You look at the Packers, their improvement is Aaron Rodgers is back. Look at the Lions, their improvement is Matt Patricia. I mean, remain to be seen what kind of head coach he's going to be for that team, but I think it was time for a change there. Then you look at Chicago. That's one of the young up-and-coming teams in the NFL. I mean, it's no given that you're going to sweep Chicago. They could give you a fight. Detroit's going to be better. And like I said, Green Bay could sweep Minnesota. That's a possibility. And I mean, there's no given that they win this division either. I mean, it's either them or Aaron Rodgers who wins it. So, we'll see what ends up happening with them. And plus, I mean, it's going to be tough navigating through the playoffs in the NFC if they do make it. Let's go with my division winners. I got the Eagles winning the division. I'll go Minnesota, the Saints, and the Rams. So it leaves 2 wild card teams. I'll go Green Bay and Carolina. Yes, Carolina. I'd say that the Saints will finish with a better record, so will the Rams and the Eagles. So they'd be the 4th seed. They'd be playing what? I'd say they play the Packers. You want to play the Packers in the playoffs. And then not necessarily they'd lose or anything like that, but like I said, it's going to be tough getting through because chances are you'd have to play a team like the Packers in the wild card. Maybe Atlanta if they end up making it. Carolina's a possibility. I mean, there's a whole lot of good teams here. So, and one thing too with Minnesota that I'm kind of nervous about is Pat Shurmur's not there anymore. Their former offensive coordinator. He's now coaching the Giants. A lot of their success last season on that offense was credited to Pat Shurmur. Mike Zimmer is not an offensive guy. He's a defensive guy. So whoever they brought in to be the offensive coordinator has got to pretty much get it going real fast. And I think that is what I'm most concerned about. Because, we saw Pat Shurmur turn Case Keenum into a very good quarterback. No one's ever been able to do that, at least in the NFL. Sure, Case Keenum played well in Houston, but who cares? At the college Houston, but who cares? That was years ago. College football performances don't really mean much. Sorry to you diehard college football fans. It's true. When it comes to the NFL, everyone could care less what you did in college. So, like I said, I think Pat Shurmur probably was the biggest loss for this team, not Case Keenum. But Kirk Cousins got to step up this season. Hasn't really done too much with Washington over his career. Now he's in Minnesota. With Washington, he made the playoffs once, lost that game. Since, had a couple of 7-9 seasons. Not very great. His numbers look good. I will credit to Kirk Cousins. He didn't really have much to work with on that Washington team. Not too many weapons there. So, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how this team does, but I'm not sure I want to put him up there with the Eagles, Saints, or Rams. Like I said, their schedule was fairly easy last season, and people say, oh, so was Philadelphia's. But, yeah, Philadelphia won the Super Bowl. So, that argument's kind of thrown out. They got a solid squad. It's just, like I said, that offense is going to be as good as last season. No one knows. And how much of an upgrade is Kirk Cousins actually over Case Keenum? Comparing Case Keenum last season to Kirk Cousins over his career, it's pretty similar. So, we'll see what ends up happening. Like I said, the NFC is going to be real tough this season. Any team can go out and win it. It is going to be interesting to see who does. I'd say right now my favorite to make it out of the NFC is probably still Philadelphia. I do got my eye on the Packers. I'm sure Aaron Rodgers got something up his sleeve. The Saints, I want to see how Drew Brees does. Seems like he's kind of starting to diminish as far as his ability. The Falcons, if they get their problems on offense fixed up, easily could make it back to the Super Bowl. Carolina's also another sleeper Super Bowl team for me. They got DJ Moore. Recently got, what was it? Cited for speeding. Driving, 113 and a 65 or something like that, I think it was. Not great. But Carolina's a team, like I said, might sneak up on some people. If they fixed up their secondary, which they tried to through the draft, then they're going to be a problem. So, like I said, we'll see what ends up happening, but that's all I got to say about that. Next up, I'm going to be talking about the Patriots and their wide receiver problems once again. They just cut Kenny Britt, so stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. Today we've talked about the Raiders possibly trading Khalil Mack and the Vikings. So now we move on. The Patriots had some real serious wide receiver problems. Just cut Kenny Britt, and you look at the receivers, they're terrible. There's no depth. And there's not really guys that you can count on that have been doing it for a while, meaning producing stats and all that. Drafted Braxton Berrios. He's a rookie, so you have no clue what he's going to do in the regular season. Eric Decker's old and washed up. Philip Dorsett just runs fast. Julian Edelman suspended for the first 4 games of the season. Chris Hogan's decent, I'll give him that. Then you got Cordell Patterson. He's been more of a special teams guy, meaning kick return, stuff like that, rather than being known for his receiver skills. Matthew Slater you got, but we all know he's a special teams guy. And they got Paul Turner coming into his second year, Riley McCarron, who was a rookie, and then Devin Lucien. I mean, realistically, you get Braxton Berrios, Decker, Edelman, Hogan, Patterson, and Dorsett. I'm assuming they're going to be their 6 receivers that they're keeping. And I'm not even sure they're going to keep that many. Matthew Slater, I didn't really count him because, like I said, he's a special teams guy. When is Dez Bryant going to sign there? That's all I want to know. There's no way in the world Bill Belichick is content with going in to the season with these guys. There's no way. I get that you have Tom Brady there and all that. Trust me, I get it. But you know what? As good as Tom Brady is, he at least needs some talent there. And I get you have Gronk, but how sure are we that he's going to stay healthy? Not very sure at all. Edelman's only missing 4 games. Edelman's only had, 2 1,000-yard seasons? I mean, come on now. It's going to get you the Patriots, but you have to have some talent there. And I think Dez Bryant is the man for that team. I don't think that Dez Bryant is going to end up going to Cleveland. I think that's done and over with, and I think that's smart of Cleveland. Mainly because you had Dez Bryant. That's too many players you got to throw the ball to. You got to get it to Josh Gordon and Jarvis Landry first, and then you got Antonio Callaway and then Higgins that have looked good also in camp. So I don't think there's really a need at wide receiver for the Browns. I thought it was a good idea at first, but then once you think about it, get beneath the surface, it's a bit doing too much. So as far as Dez Bryant and the Patriots go, Dez Bryant has said recently how great of a quarterback Tom Brady is, and that's usually code for, hey, can you guys come please sign me, please? I just want to play football and I need a job. Please come sign me. And it wouldn't be the first time that the Patriots brought on a wide receiver with some baggage. Look at Randy Moss. His 2 years with Oakland were absolutely horrendous. Terrible. Awful. No good. Just garbage there. He ends up going to New England, breaks records, and loses a Super Bowl to Eli Manning. Dez Bryant still has it. I've not given up on Dez Bryant yet. I blame the last 2 years of his lack of production on Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott is a decent quarterback, but Dak Prescott isn't the kind of quarterback that Dez Bryant would benefit from. Dez Bryant needs someone who's going to be willing to throw down the field and allow Dez Bryant to go up and get it. Not a dink and duck type of quarterback, which Dak Prescott is. Dak Prescott reminds me a lot of Alex Smith. They're basically the same player, I'd say. So, yeah, I think that Dak Prescott and Dez Bryant just never really connected and got on the same page, and that's why Dez Bryant struggled those last 2 seasons. I get he had a foot injury 3 years ago and all that, but, it's been 2 years. 29, I'm sure it'll be fine. So I guess now we wait to see what ends up happening, and there's not really a market out there for Dez Bryant. You look at it, not too many teams need a receiver, and how many teams are going to want to bring on a receiver who has been known to yell at his quarterbacks and basically just yell in general, be the loudest guy in the room, kind of like a Terrell Owens. And that's kind of where Dez Bryant is heading, for being real here. You look at it, Terrell Owens had a few more years left in the tank. Terrell Owens could still ball, but had to retire because of the fact that no one else wanted him. Same with Chad Johnson. Too many problems there. That might be where Dez Bryant's currently at. He's doing it a whole lot earlier than they did, but, that might just be the case. Dez Bryant, at one point in his career, was one of the best receivers in the league, if not the best. He had a 3-year period where he was just absolutely dominating. And he gets hurt, Dak Prescott comes in, Tony Romo retires, and it's just completely different. So, we'll see what ends up happening to him, but like I said, I think the Patriots need to pick him up. You need something there. And right now you have nothing. You can't just run out there with a bunch of slot receivers. Because you're looking at it, Julian Edelman's out for the first 4 games. He won't be back till week 5. Who are you going to start as your 3 receivers? Chris Hogan, Eric Decker, and then Braxton Berrios? Or you go Chris Hogan, Cordell Patterson, and Braxton Berrios or Eric Decker at the slot. I mean, that's not necessarily solid week 1. So, we'll see what ends up happening, but I'm calling this year a year that the Patriots don't make the Super Bowl. I'm not even sure if they make the AFC Championship. I mean, they're going to win their division, no doubt, but you look at it, they've been in the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. Teams don't tend to do that 3 years in a row. So history is on my side. And like I said, they got too many problems. Isaiah Wynn getting hurt, missing the entire season with an injury. First-round pick. Offensive line needs help again. And that offense lacks receivers. So we'll see what Tom Brady can do. Maybe Tom Brady's good enough to work his magic once again. But I'd say right now, with this current group that they have, this is probably the least talented receiver group that Tom Brady's ever played with. And we're so used to the fact that he just makes something out of nothing, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it here. It's going to be a bit different. You don't have a Deion Branch or you don't have a Randy Moss that could cover for him. So, I mean, like I said, I'm expecting him to win the division. I'm not sure Miami, the Jets, or the Bills are ready to do that yet. I'm not sure that they'll ever be until Tom Brady leaves. But as far as playoff success, that's usually where the Patriots' success is measured, and I think it's going to be a bit disappointing this season. And I know I'm going against the grain here. I mean, I think we've all learned not to go against the Patriots. But I think this is one of those years where the people that do will be right. And I'm curious to see how much longer Tom Brady sticks around. I mean, his wife's already talked a bunch about concussions and all that, how she's voiced it. She doesn't want him playing anymore. Says that she makes all kinds of money, so there's no reason for him to continue playing. Plus, they got kids. Turns out, family life matters. Tom Brady's already, 41? Usually this is where you see players start to retire. I know Tom Brady said he wants to play till he's 45, but I mean, is it worth it at that point? Like, what more does Tom Brady have left to accomplish? I think it's already pretty much regarded as him being the greatest quarterback of all time amongst the majority of people. So, I mean, what else does he need? He's got 5 Super Bowls. A 6th. I don't think that really elevates him anymore. Like I said, everyone already thinks he's the greatest quarterback of all time. Doesn't need anything else to do. Last year won the MVP. Year before that won a Super Bowl. I mean, if he gets bad this season, then I could really see him hanging his boots up and calling it quits. Man, oh man. Patriots really need a quarterback. Let me tell you. Let's say Brady calls it quits after this season. Not saying he will or anything. Let's say he does. They have no quarterback to take over. Maybe a Teddy Bridgewater if he's a free agent next year. Possibly. Teddy Bridgewater would look good in New England. Played well there. He would play well. So, we'll see what ends up happening. But that's all I got to say about that. We're going to move on to the final segment. Going to be talking about anything else going on in the world of football. Since it's Wednesday, we ain't got no preseason games going on tonight, so we'll find something else to talk about. Let's see. Yeah, so stay tuned for that, and we will be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
And welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. So far today, we've talked Patriots, we've talked Vikings, and we've talked Raiders. Now we'll talk about what's all the rage in the NFL right now, the helmet rule. And we've gone through 2 weeks of preseason, and the rule stinks. It's awful. It's terrible. No one knows, how to tackle or anything like that anymore because of the rule. So the NFL discussed, the competition committee discussed whether or not they changed the rule. They decided not to. Why would you expect the NFL to make a right decision? Come on now, you guys. There's no instant replay. That's the one thing. With rules like this, where it's a judgment call, there should be instant replay. Because if I got a safety or a linebacker coming up to hit the running back or receiver, and he's about to make the tackle and he's leading with his shoulder, but the receiver or running back ducks down and incidentally makes contact with the head, that's going to get called on the defensive player, and that's not necessarily a fair thing. Like I said, if you're not going to change the rule, at least add instant replay. I don't understand why that's so hard. What sense does that make? You see how the rule's been really inconsistent. You're not sure what is a penalty and what's not. Why not use penalty or instant replay to figure it out? Why not get it right? Why is the NFL always trying to get stuff wrong? They put the referees in a bad spot here. I don't blame the referees one bit as far as the penalties that are getting called, because you know what? There's no real clarity. And they did, after a meeting, come up with, something, said that the committee, with Troy Vincent, he's the NFL executive vice president of football operations, he said that the committee also determined inadvertent or incidental contact with the helmet and or face mask is not a foul. How are you going to tell whether or not it's incidental? Honestly, you can't. It's a judgment call. That's why we need instant replay. But that's too easy. That makes too much sense. The NFL never wants to do things the right way, which is ridiculous. And it stinks because you know what? I think it's like this because the NFL makes so much money where people are going to keep coming in. With the protests and stuff like that, you got people threatening, oh yeah, I'm not watching anymore. The NFL's doing fine. They just completed, a $3 billion Thursday night TV deal? People say, oh, the ratings are going down. Ratings are going down across all televisions. TV is not the way to go anymore. Everyone's streaming everything. That's why the NFL ratings are going down, not because of the protests. Don't let them lie to you. But, like I said, the NFL's at a point where they've made so much money, people are going to keep coming in. It's football. People love football. It's weird how, I love watching the NBA. Baseball's cool. I like watching soccer, but none of it compares to the NFL. My team has stunk for years. But I'm still back every single year. I don't get it. So it seems like the rule, like I said, the only thing they added was if it's incidental or inadvertent, then it's not a flag. But that doesn't really help much here. You can't tell whether or not it is. I don't know, man. It's ridiculous, honestly. Bobby Wagner defended Earl Thomas's holdout. That's the first thing I've seen about Earl Thomas in a couple weeks, I'd say. I guess Seattle really isn't going to get a deal done with him. They still got a couple weeks, but what are we waiting for here? Earl Thomas isn't bluffing, I don't think. I really think that if the season gets here and there's no new deal for him, he's not going to play. Sure, he'll be back mid-season or whatever, so he could get the money that he's supposed to make this season. But if you're Seattle, you don't really have... Actually, you know what? I think Seattle's not going to pay Earl Thomas because they're trying to get rid of Earl Thomas. We've seen Sherman go. We've seen Michael Bennett go. Cam Chancellor's not there anymore. That whole defense is completely switched up. Seattle's trying to rebuild right now. Maybe they feel a 29-year-old safety isn't the way to go. Which is kind of ridiculous just considering the fact that he still is one of the best safeties in the league. But I think that's what it is here. Seattle doesn't want Earl Thomas back. Because if they did, I'm sure they would have extended him. So, I don't plan on seeing Earl Thomas at all in the preseason. And I don't think I'll see him week 1. That's not necessarily a good thing for the Seahawks considering that you need your best players out there. A lot of turnover this offseason on that defense. At least throw the guys out there that can still play out there. I'm curious to see. If Earl Thomas ends up leaving Seattle, where's he going to end up? Dallas? They need secondary help. That won't be till next year, though. I'm not sure that Seattle's going to end up trading him. I mean, Earl Thomas has said, if you're not going to sign me, trade me. Seems pretty simple there, but Seattle's playing mind games, I guess. So there's that. We'll see what ends up happening. Looks like Adrian Peterson is finally going to play in the preseason. Redskins planning on playing him on Friday. Peterson has to start for this team, right? I mean, I don't think there's really any debate whether or not Rob Kelly or Samaje Perine are better than Adrian Peterson, even at this point in Peterson's career. I mean, if Jay Gruden is smart, he'd start Peterson. I saw also George Ayoka, who signed with the Minnesota Vikings. He got Peterson's old number, 28. Man, first Clinton Portis, now Peterson. But Ayoka says he doesn't plan on wearing it much longer, meaning when players get cut, he'll probably take a different number. And Minnesota needs to retire 84, and he needs to retire 28. I mean, retiring 84 is long overdue. Everyone, when they think of Randy Moss, they think of him with the Vikings. Patriots fans, sorry, but it's true. And Adrian Peterson is one of the best running backs to ever play the game. So yes, Minnesota should retire his number also. But, I mean, if Peterson... I'm not expecting Peterson to be the same back that he used to be. But if he can still average about maybe 4 yards a carry or whatnot, Redskins are going to be a very good team. I was very excited when they drafted Darius Guy, so that was going to be good, running back out of LSU. He eventually tears his ACL. I put a little dent on this offense, but they come out, bring in Adrian Peterson. I think that helps it a bit. I think that plugs the hole that they had. I mean, Peterson running the ball on first and second down, then you got Chris Thompson on the passing downs, third down, stuff like that. So offense is going to be pretty fun to watch, I think. People are really sleeping on the Redskins because obviously the Cowboys are always a story. Eagles are past Super Bowl champions, and the Giants, I mean, they play in New York, so always going to get the headlines. But no one's paying attention to Washington, like I said. They could come out and surprise some people like an Arizona-type team. So we'll see what ends up happening. But as far as it goes, curious to see how Adrian Peterson looks on Friday. And let's see who they're going to be playing. Let's see who's playing who this weekend in preseason. So, I mean, this is going to be this is a good week for him to come back too, because I mean the starters usually get a bunch of time here, so we're probably going to see an extended look at Adrian Peterson. Tomorrow we got Eagles, Browns, Giants, Jets. Redskins are going to be playing the Broncos in Washington. So watching Adrian Peterson go up against that defensive line in Denver is going to be fun to watch if he does start. And he is going to be competing for the starting job. Panthers, Patriots. We got Seahawks, Vikings on Friday. Lions, Bucks. Packers, Raiders. Saturday, we got Chiefs, Bears. Texans, Rams. Titans, Steelers. 49ers, Colts. Ravens, Dolphins. If Ravens, Dolphins goes any way like how the last few regular season games have gone when they've met each other, the Ravens are going to blow them out. Falcons, Jags. Saints, Chargers. Oh, Casey Hayward left practice the other day with a hamstring problem. This team can't catch a break. I don't know what is going on with the Chargers, but that organization is actually cursed. Like, I legitimately might believe that. So we got Bengals, Bills, and then Cardinals, Cowboys. Feels like preseason's been going by real fast. I mean, before you know it, Thursday night's going to be here. It'll be Eagles, Falcons. Can't wait for that. But I think that's all I got for today. Tomorrow, we'll start getting into a couple of the preseason games. Probably talk about Browns and Eagles, what to watch for there. Talk about Baker Mayfield and all that. So, thanks for listening to the GSMC Football Podcast. As always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. Like I said, I'll be back tomorrow, so make sure you stay tuned, and I will talk to you guys later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.